Hey, Dan,
Hey,
how's it going?
awesome. Doing great.
Well, we are live, I believe, and so let's get this party rolling. Um, Thank you for joining us today, and I'm just going to talk about Dan, who he has been for us in the past several years. Dan's been a great friend to our company, great friend to ERA, and is a constant fixture on the speaking circuit and at our events, and is always willing to help. And I appreciate you taking your time today to give us a few minutes and talk to us a little bit about what you see happening out here.
It's my pleasure, Michael. Thanks for the opportunity to chat with the team.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's just get this started with a real easy question. I'm sure.
Okay.
When right now, what are you recommending that agents? How do they prepare to come out of this? And we kind of titled our series "Own the Recovery." How do you recommend that agents actually come out of this in a good position and not necessarily rest on their laurels?
That's a fabulous question. I've got two or three points to make to that. There is proactivity and being reactive, and we want to be proactive in life. This chapter has not been written in real estate or in any other business right now. There's no way to go back and look at how did we deal with a pandemic the last time and what were the right steps to take? What was the blueprint to follow? So we're in uncharted territory. So I like to tell people it's time for us to be reimagining our business and thinking about, I'm coining a phrase, real estate 2.0 with the people I'm talking to that actually came from Mark Cuban on a financial network where he talked about, America has to go to 2.0. It's going to be different. A lot of things will be the same, but many things will be different. So people who are reactive and waiting to see how things shake out, I believe will miss the opportunities to gain market share, to help the people in their sphere and their network, and to really have a sustainable career, because someone else will write the book for you and then you'll be behind. But if you're proactive, if you will look at what's happening in the marketplace and you get proactive with your own plan for real estate 2.0 and you go out and execute on it, I believe you can lead others to where you want to go. But all of it has to take into consideration, and this is the important part for me to share, is think about the range of emotion that people have for this crisis, for this virus. I've drawn a chart before when I was in front of people that, on the far right side, you have people that think that this is crazy. Why are we doing this? It's kind of stupid. People on the left side are paralyzed in fear. Everyone we talk to, everyone on this call, everyone listening falls somewhere on that chart. Either on the side where we think, this is ridiculous. I don't know why we're doing this. Why are we killing the economy? To, oh my God, we'll die. And to be tone deaf to that range of emotion will, I believe, cost you your ability to recover and earn in the new real estate market. Because if you live in your own belief system, then you have a very small slice of people that you will be able to communicate with. To look poorly on people that are different than you, if you are not afraid and you look at people and go, what are you so afraid of? It's not that big of a deal. You're diminishing their fear, and that will cause them to not want to do business with you. When we understand fear, when we understand how it affects people, the only way out of fear is to have a way to cope with fear. So in the planning of 2.0, Michael, it's about how do you create a process by which people can be safe, understand that you're not tone deaf, and be able to cope with the fear or level of fear that they currently have. You see it in restaurants. You see it in, I went into my eyeglass place to have my sunglasses repaired. I stopped on the sticker on the floor. They took my temperature with one of those laser temperature things. They took me over and sat me down. People had masks on. They kept distance. So for someone who'd be very fearful, they could walk into that store and operate. But someone who's not fearful, is put in the position to follow those protocols and operate. That keeps the people who are fearful safe. And just by leading boldly, we can make things happen. So that's a long answer to your first question. But I really think Fear 2.0, creating that plan in a proactive way, is the only way that any company can come out and be the leader in their marketplace instead of a follower.
What do you tell people, or what do you recommend agents say when someone in the public, whether it's a prospect or whether they're just having a conversation, maybe it's in person, maybe it's online, what do you tell them when they ask you, how's the market? Or what do you see as going to happen to the market?
Actually, I believe, that's a question we always been asked, 32 years in the business, when you run into someone in the sphere or a stranger and you say you're in real estate, you got about a 90% chance they're going to say, how's the market? I think that's even a greater chance now because people have fear. So I think there's two sides to this. There is the opportunity side of what the marketplace has to offer right now. And then there is the service side of how I can service that person and or prospect in a non-tone deaf way to gain business in this time. So I will start with the opportunity. You can go online and Google these things, but I'm a big economics and finance geek. I watch the numbers. I look at past crises going all the way back to the 87 crash, the 97 recession we had, the 2000 tech bubble, 9/11, the 08 financial crisis. All of those crises, the federal government intervened in some way with stimulus, giving money out, or the Federal Reserve doing what's called increasing their balance sheet, which is where they make more money available. It's not, we don't borrow the money, they print extra money. So usually the federal government has been slow in times of crisis. And so we have the problem and then they respond to it. Well, this time, Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve, he was very proactive. As soon as he saw liquidity starting to dry up, meaning the banks and the financial arms didn't have access to capital, on 3/17, he dropped 1.2 trillion into the marketplace for mortgage-backed securities, freed up a lot of money, allowed banks to continue to function. Then we had the CARE Act, as many of you are aware, where we have the payroll protection loans, we have the economic disaster loans, we have increased amounts of money for unemployment, and then we turn around and give money individually to people who have filed their taxes. That was another $2.3 trillion. And within that act, the Federal Reserve was authorized to expand again, to print more money to the tune of $4 trillion, which was for commercial lending. Then on 4/9, the Federal Reserve saw the larger companies, the big financial facilities that are there for like a Boeing or someone like that were drying up. They threw another 2.3 trillion for these larger facilities, but also to shore up municipalities and states so they could go and borrow. So all this stuff's going on. And then I'm sure all of you are aware on 4/28, they passed the follow-up bill to the CARE Act and put another 500 billion into the payroll protection plan. So what I'm getting at here is that was $10.3 trillion in 5 weeks made available in the market. Now, when you look at past crisis, on a time value dollar perspective, meaning a dollar in 1987 is different than a dollar to today. So whenever we calculate for time, the money that they put into the market this time is about 33% more in comparison to past crisis. And it came before the crisis affected us, and we were in a strong position as an economy coming into this. So wow, all of a sudden we have all this opportunity out there. That money will go to work, Michael. That money is going to find its way into people's pockets. They're going to go use it. And when you look at the curve coming out of crises, real estate usually does very well. Being ahead of the curve with all that money, I believe that the market's going to take off. Now, to address, someone says, how's the market? You can preach to them and say, oh, there's a lot of money out there, it's going to be great. Or you can ask them a couple of questions. Were you aware of what the Federal Reserve has done for mortgage-backed securities and for commercial lending? No. Oh yeah, they've dumped trillions of dollars into the economy. With all that money, Mr. Smith or Bill or whoever I'm talking to, do you think all that money will help us in recovery? And the person's going to think and go, all those trillions of dollars out there, yeah, it's got to help. Yeah, I believe it's going to help. I believe, matter of fact, the market's going to get hot and we're going to have an amazing 12 to 18 months. So I can address it that way. On the prospecting side, inventories have stayed low. In all the markets that I've checked through the United States, inventories are staying low, interest rates are low. Another question I can ask, with interest rates at 3.5% for 30-year fixed mortgages, do you think that's going to continue to stimulate buying? And people will say back to you, yes. So that leads me, Michael, to say this. If you were the person asking that, I would end up saying this. But there is one problem, Michael, and that is we have so many buyers that still want to buy a home, take advantage of the low rates. We have people leaving major city areas, coming into suburbs, but we don't have the inventory to sell them. So we got all these people wanting to buy and no listings. Maybe you can help me. And this becomes conversational. Michael, who do you know in your marketplace that might be thinking of selling? So I can just simply have the conversation and end it with, you know what, maybe you can help me. Who do you know in the marketplace that's thinking of selling? It doesn't sound tone deaf. It doesn't sound like I don't care about the crisis or the virus. It's I'm trying to help all these buyers that are trying to change locations, take advantage of interest rates, but I have no inventory. Maybe you can help me. Who do you know that might be thinking of selling? So I always believe we start with questions to get people engaged. We end with that opportunity with an open-ended question on who do you know, or when is your next real estate transaction going to occur?
Yeah, that's very well said. I hope everybody's taking notes. We'll have to go watch the replay. But very well said. In terms of really agents who are wanting to prepare themselves and wanting to come out of this in the best possible light, best possible frame of mind. I know you work with agents all over the country. You have lots of clients. You work with one-on-one and groups and all that. Just give me a couple of if you're doing nothing else, a couple of steps that they should be taking, whether it's training or whether it's contacting their sphere or whether it's putting news out, whether it's doing live streams. What should they be doing, especially if probably, like, let's say our market, South Carolina, and I know you're in Florida, so very similar, probably people wanting to buy homes are still in lockdown and
Yes.
probably still looking for information. So what would you recommend that they're doing right now?
Okay, I'll address that. A question popped up, and it's a good question. Somebody asked, is this correct? Real estate has always done well on a curve during a recovery. So here's what I want to address to that. You go back, I got in the business in 1987. We had the financial crisis then, the stock market, Black Monday or Friday, whatever it was. I opened my office in 88 and things took off and we were very successful. 97, we had a recession. From 98 going into 2000, we had another pop. 2000, the tech bubble, the market crashed, if you remember. If you think about what happened between 2000 and 2007, 2006, before the financial crisis, was a huge pop. And then coming out of 2008, when we ended up cleansing all of the REOs out there, look what our market's done since 08. So to address the Facebook user that asked that question, you can go back and look. And I believe that one of the reasons these things occur is that there's always a flight to quality with cash and money whenever there's crisis. And the United States is the best place to put your money. The Federal Reserve gets involved in bond purchases. And before you know it, our interest rates are low. So that's always a stimulant. But then when you throw all this cash into the market this time, that money is going to work. Think about people unemployed before. State of Florida, they were getting $275 a week while they were unemployed, depleting their assets, depleting their reserves. And then they got a job. They were unable to purchase, unable to do things. This time with $600 extra dollars, someone in Florida gets $875 while they're on unemployment. That pretty much is going to float most people, or maybe even be more than they were making. And that puts them in a stronger financial position coming out when they get that job. So if you really look at the numbers and you really look at the money that's been infused into the marketplace, you should be very ready for your 2.0. But if you're going to operate as you always did, you will not have that business. Now, going back to your question, Michael, I believe the first thing you have to do in your communication to the marketplace is understand what the person is feeling. Where are they on that chart? From this is crazy to paralyzed. If I say, Michael, how are you doing? I bet you money you'll give me a positive response, because you want to show people that, hey, I'm okay. So how you doing, Michael? I'm doing good. I'm doing well. We're hanging in there. But that doesn't get the job done, because you could be in a paralysis state, and I will now assume you're fine. So my questions have to change before I get into how I communicate beyond that. So it might be more like, how has the crisis affected you and your family? And I say that because I have one of my best friends in the world, 35 years we've been friends. I know him, he's on the, this is crazy, why are we doing it side. We met to play golf, because in Florida, golf remained an essential activity. We met to play golf, and he had a mask. He had sanitary wipes to open doors. He stayed 10 feet away from me. It was just total different behavior than my expectations from knowing this man for 35 years. I could have said, what's the matter with you? Why, are you scared? And I could have belittled him, which would have been bad. Or I could have turned around and said, which I did, hey, Ron, how's the crisis been affecting you and your family? And to find out he has a family member with a blood disorder on immune depressant drugs, depressing their immune system. And this man's walking around scared to death because his job puts him out in the public that he'll go home and kill this person. So here's someone that's not afraid, but now they're in paralysis because they're scared they're going to hurt someone else. If you don't take the time to understand where the people are that you are talking to in that range of emotion, you will end up saying or doing something that repels them, and that will cost you money. So if we begin with good questions, if we begin with asking about, with honesty, where they stand on that chart, I can now address things in a much better way. Now, what are my methodologies? Guys, I have a client, a lot of you know, maybe some of you on watching are my client. I do a lot of consulting. I've got a lot of companies on monthly consulting, and we were having conversations with some of them, and we found that handwritten notes have become so impactful right now. I mean, it takes, we got technology and all that stuff. It takes a long time, but that handwritten note is amazing to our sphere. Another thing is the phone call, reaching out and saying, hey, I'm just reaching out to my past customers, just to check on them. How's the virus been affecting you and your family? Not how are you doing? And spend the time in discovering how they're doing. I will bet you money, more often than not, they'll then ask you, how is the market? And you have the perfect opportunity to prospect them. Market's amazing, strong as can be. Problem is we don't have enough inventory. So all these buyers with these low rates just can't find a home. Maybe you can help me. Who do you know that might be thinking of selling in the market? So calls, handwritten notes. And the other one that if you use some type of video-based communication through, using YouTube or something to embed, or BombBomb or something where you can embed video, a video message, I believe, is more effective right now. There is so much out there on social media that is misinformation, that is wrong information, or that is tone deaf, that I think people are turned off right now in that media for it to be effective for us. So look at your other medias, pick the phone back up, but don't be tone deaf whenever you're talking to people.
That's awesome. Good information there. I loved what you said about how is it affecting you and your family. That's such a different thing than how are you doing. So I think that was hopefully people were taking notes on that one too. So you've talked about a little bit about how to talk about the market right now. You've talked about sort of activities to be doing. And what do you see in terms of the business overall, in terms of agents? Do you think this will be somewhat of a cleansing, or do you think this will be where those who are not serious about it will self-eliminate, or do you see it as more of like the coming wave, and so it's going to attract even more people into the market? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, again, I'll hit that. One of the Facebook people just asked, "Do you believe?" And they said it's not part of my presentation, but being a finance guy, I understand the question. Do you believe quantitative easing, the Fed printing of money, is going to cause inflation. If you go back in the 70s, that's what the marketplace did. They printed a whole bunch of money. The money supply went up and we had horrible inflation. The Fed chairman Powell right now, he understands that. And in his communications, if you watch and listen to him, he understands that he'll have to pull that money off the table. So as people pay off a loan or as things happen, he'll be drawing that money back down and shrinking the balance sheet and pulling that supply off. I am highly confident that he has his finger on the pulse, and I currently don't fear inflation. But it is you are correct. It is always a possibility when we dump that kind of money supply in. To your point, Michael, on your question, answering that, I lost my track on your question.
I think, yeah, I probably lost it too. But no, I think I was just asking in terms of the overall market for real estate agents.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there is going to be a cleansing for three reasons. One, we have a lot of disruptive business models out there. I'm a fan of competition. People were asking, when these different business models were hitting iBuyers and all of that, they always ask me, Dan, what are we going to do? And I go, we're going to compete. I said, anybody that comes to the market with a different model, it shouldn't be looked at as a bad person. You should look at how do you compete. People buy, Mercedes and people buy Chevrolets. People wear Rolexes and people wear Timexes. The value proposition is where we get people. So just because someone says they're going to do it cheaper or pay more for something does not mean you cannot compete. Well, the problem with these other business models, and Michael, to just be honest, everyone out there, to companies that are not running financially smart, and I spend a lot of my time in consulting helping people deliver value and be profitable. So if we're not being smart out there, what ends up happening is we're in a crisis mode right now where cash flow is being affected. So both agents that were running on a shoestring and companies that were running on a shoestring might not survive this. In a second phase of that, if they're not proactive in the way they're going to create their real estate 2.0, they might not be able to recover quick enough to survive it. So I do believe we'll have a cleansing of both companies and agents, which is healthy in our marketplace. But when you talk about people coming on board, every time there's a crisis and people get laid off, we get a group of people that say, maybe real estate's for me. So we will have competition from new agents. And as a company, I would be looking at new agents. And then one of the biggest reason is because of the extra money the government's putting into unemployment, many people can leave a career right now because they're furloughed or laid off, get paid a decent amount in unemployment to where they don't deplete their assets, and they can come into real estate in a better financial position than a lot of people usually come into real estate having been laid off. They usually come in very strapped for cash. And if they don't take off quickly, they're out of the business. I think there's an opportunity for new agents to come in with cash in hand and be able to sustain themselves to be successful. So competition from some new agents, but I think there's going to be a cleansing, if you will, of both companies and agents that have not operated in a financially responsible and profitable way. Did you mute yourself? I can't hear you.
I did. We are actually in an operating office here, so there's some background noise. So I was trying to eliminate that.
Gotcha.
But anyway, so one last question, and then we certainly respect your time. I want to make sure we don't take advantage. But from the standpoint of you know what? Now after all that, I think I lost my question. It's okay. I'll think of it again. But while I'm thinking of that, give us some information on how people can touch base with you, how they can connect with you, what you offer.
Sure. Thank you for that opportunity. If people want to reach out to me, you can go to danelzer.com. That will forward you into our training academy website. You can call us. Judy's our operations officer. She runs the show here. 407-285-5555. 256-7056. Matter of fact, I think Judy is on board right now. She can throw that into the live comments, and you guys can reach us. Oh, there. Thank you, Michael. So we do consulting. Me personally, I spend most of my time in consulting, executive coaching, training, helping people with their skills and stuff. We also have a video. It's called 8 Weeks to the Top. We have a Judy, if you're listening to me, you're in the private. You got to click over on the live. So the program's called 8 Weeks to the Top. It's a $199 program, and you end up getting basically 10 weeks to complete an 8-week program. It's kind of spaced learning. It's all skill-based. And to what's going on in the marketplace, people are asking me about the skills. They're saying, Dan, are they still applicable with this 2.0? And the answer is absolutely yes. You should be able to look at the skill sets and then turn around and do an adjustment, if you will, into what you need to do to not be tone deaf in the marketplace. I'll give you a perfect example of that, Michael. People are doing virtual open houses and virtual showings. And when I've worked with companies that have agents doing that, I'm asking, what skills are you using in your virtual showings? And like, what do you mean? I go, are you just letting them watch a video, or are you demonstrating the home? And they're like, what do you mean? And I go, well, if we go to basic demonstration technique, which is one of the videos in my program, we should understand the needs of the buyer. We should ask them questions and then trial close on things that matter. If my video tour of the home shows the kitchen and the counter space, and I know you need counter space, if I was live in the house, I would say, I know counter space is important to you, Michael. Looking at this kitchen, does this fit your needs when it comes to that additional counter space? That's a trial close. What that does for people is it helps them check a box in their brain on that this home fits my needs. When I don't do an analysis of the buyer, when I don't know their needs intimately, and then when I don't ask questions as we're demonstrating a home, it just becomes a blur with every other home that we've seen. And that causes them to be confused, and they're not sure what to do. And then they give you to think about it. But whenever I'm using skills, whether I have to do it through virtual or live, I'm going to be much more effective for my client and for myself than the others. So that program, 8 Weeks to the Top, is there. It's $199. I know, because Michael, we've worked together for a long time. Those of you at Evergreen, Michael participates in that cost. So if any of you are on board and you want to take a look at that program, see Michael, because I know he will participate in your education. Anyone else, you can just reach out to us. It's also on our website. I also have a monthly video on demand membership. It's $29 a month. Cancel anytime. You have access to all the video trainings that I've put together. So between live work where we consult or executive coach, or video-based work, that's pretty much what we're doing right now. Our in-person trainings actually are starting to ramp up. The fall is filling up for us for our trainers. People are making the assumption we will be able to gather again and train. So thank you for that opportunity. Those are the kind of things we're up to.
Absolutely. I appreciate that rundown. And this, I do remember my question. It's the last one.
Okay.
So right now we're conducting business differently than we have in the past.
Yes.
A company like ours, honestly, we've been 100% digital since 2011, let's say. We have, our offices are small. Agents come in and out. We definitely are utilizing technology in order to deliver services to our agents. But a lot of things are changing in how we do transactions, how we show property, as you just mentioned, how you do open houses. From a standpoint of companies operating and agents operating, which of these changes do you see becoming permanent? It's just not going to go back to the way it was.
I'm kind of a contrarian in that, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of if you read news feeds through LinkedIn and places like that, you'll see a lot of thought leaders really touting, that the markets will really go to work from home, virtual. And I'm a contrarian in that. We've tried for over a decade You said yourself, you've moved into a more digital footprint for your company. I'm sure in making that move, you found there are people that still want to gather, people that still want to meet. So where I'm a contrarian is I think we'll still have a percentage of the population that will be dying to get back to how we used to operate, maybe with some safe mechanisms in place, distancings and such. But I think it's misguided for any company to think that it's going to be a wholesale switch to we're now working from home, or we're now only doing Zoom meetings or live virtual meetings. I think that the company that is prepared to use these tools and technologies as a complement to the way they operate will be the best companies out there, because now that people that took no interest in understanding how to use the technology understands it now. But that blend of the tools and the live versus in-person stuff, I think will become the desired position. I could be wrong. I mean, we could end up in a full virtual world, and I'm totally wrong here. But you know me, Michael, I'm not afraid to speak my opinion. So for that question, I think that there will be an adjustment back to some normal activity, but I don't think it will go away, is what I'm getting at. So a good blend for a company will make them better.
And I love that answer because I have a screen in front of me, so I think we have 8 or 9 people in the office right now. We have closings going on in the office today. We have meetings going on, and I do agree with you. People want to gather; they want to be with other people. I think there will be a good blend there. I think 100% digital is somewhat unrealistic. I know there are some companies out there that run that way, and that's perfectly fine. But I think that's maybe too much social distancing. Anyway, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. I always enjoy your insight, and I look forward to working with you in the future, one-on-one, personally, not over Zoom or any of these things. So, and hopefully y'all get out of all this mess here pretty quickly.
The same to you, Michael. All the best to you and your family and to your team and everyone out there. Lean into this, guys. Lean into it. Be proactive. Write your own story, because if not, someone else will write it for you. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I can't wait to see you in person.
Thanks, Dan.